What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another War Thunder video. Today we're taking a look at the P51 Mustang, one of the most iconic fighters of World War II. I've gotten a lot of requests for advice on how to fly the Mustang, and a lot of the requests are coming from newer players. You know, War Thunder has attracted a lot of people because of its free-to-play model. So they'll start playing the early planes, the pea shooters, all the Hawks, and what have you, and they'll say, you know what, I'm liking this game, I want to get to the jets. And who's to blame them? You know, there are a lot of really good jets here in the American tech tree. Now, the fastest way to get to the jets is to grind with a premium plane, like one of these over here on the right, and a premium account. Now, to a newcomer to War Thunder, a lot of these planes are going to be unfamiliar, but without a doubt, the most recognizable one is the P51 Mustang. A lot of people have heard of the Mustang. It's one of the most, like I said, it's one of the most iconic fighters of World War II. And people tend to go with what was familiar to them. Now for $30 US, you can get the Mustang, as well as 15 days worth of premium account, as well as 2,000 Golden Eagles. You can use the Golden Eagles to buy either another plane or extend your premium account. It's a really good deal, actually, compared to some of the other Tier 4 aircraft you have at your disposal. Now, in case you're curious about what differences there are in between the various P51s, and there are three in the American tech tree. You got the D5, the D30, and of course the premium D20. As far as flight characteristics, they're all the same. You don't have to worry about one being a better turner or a better climber than the other. They all fly the same thing. They all fly the same way. The only differences have to do with the ammunition. The D5 and the D20 each get 2,080 rounds of machine guns, or of machine gun ammo, while the D30 gets 1,880. That's 200 rounds less. I've flown the Mustang quite a few times, and I've only run out of ammo once. Now, aside from ammo count, the only other difference between the three P51s and the American tech tree are the rewards bonuses. If you take a look at the P51 D5, you see it's a 340% bonus to Silver Lions and 60% bonus to research points. Now this is all in realistic battles, whereas the D30 gets 380% and 66%. Whereas over here with the D20, which is the premium one, you get 500% rewards bonus to Silver Lions and 232% for research points bonus. Now this is the big difference between the various Mustangs. If you want to get Silver Lions, which helps you buy aircraft and train your crew, the D20 is definitely the way to go. Similarly, if you want to go with the grinding new aircraft, you want to go with the D20 because of the research points bonus. You can increase the research points bonus for the D5 and the D30 by buying a talisman right here. However, that doesn't affect the Silver Lions, and even with the research points bonus with the talisman, it's still not as much as the D20s will be. So that's why I recommend the D20. We'll take a look at the modifications. Now you do have a variety of bombs and rockets at your disposal. However, in realistic battles, I don't recommend this. You're just going to end up slowing yourself down. I recommend using this plane as a fighter and not as a ground attacker. Perhaps sometime in the future, Gaijin will add specific missions or special events where the P51 will be really well suited for ground attacking. But in the average realistic battle, I don't recommend using this as a ground attacker. Instead, climb, climb, climb. Don't ground pound. Just climb. As far as the machine guns go, you have all kinds of belts at your disposal. The default is not very good, but almost all of the others are really good. The tracers are arguably the best because they have the best, or they give you the best chance of setting the enemy plane on fire, because they're all APIT or armor piercing incendiary tracer. All the others are really good. I've never had an issue with any of these. Stealth is actually quite good, but because there are no tracer rounds, your ability to kill the plane depends on your accuracy. If you're a poor shot, you're going to want to use something with tracer rounds, like the tracer belt, which are all APIT. Now let's talk about the strengths of the P51 Mustang. It has a great top speed, it performs very well at high altitude, it has a great dive speed, it has good energy retention, it has 650 caliber machine guns, and lots of ammunition. Speed is very important with the Mustang. It's not a very maneuverable aircraft, so it relies on speed. A slow Mustang is basically a dead Mustang. Now the Mustang performs very well at high altitude, but I find most of the combat tends to happen below 5 kilometers. Most people aren't patient enough to want to climb above 5 kilometers, which is where the Mustang tends to perform its best. So most of the combat tends to happen a bit lower in altitude. Now the Mustang's dive characteristics are better than most of the other planes in the game. The Mustang's a fairly heavy aircraft, so it can pick up a lot of speed and then convert it into altitude as it gets away from its opponents. You're going to be doing a lot of diving with the P51, both in offense and defense. Offensively, you'll be diving on people in a boom and zoom attack, while defensively, you'll be diving away from planes who happen to outclimb you. And unfortunately for the P51, there are quite a few fighters that are able to outclimb us. As for weaponry, we have 6 Browning M2 50 caliber machine guns, 3 on each wing. Now the machine guns differ from cannons in that they don't rely on high explosive rounds to blow up the aircraft fuselage or wings. They rely on kinetic energy, so you have to get fairly close to enemy aircraft. I tend to engage at around between 400 and 600 meters with my gun conversion set at 500. Kinetic energy in the 50 cals are important, but I would argue that you're going to want to use something like the tracer belts so that you can get armor-piercing incendiary rounds into those planes. Incendiary rounds will create fires, and more often than not, it's the fires that cause most of the damage and kill most of the planes, more so than just blowing off a wing from the kinetic energy or the kinetic force from those 50 cals. As far as ammo goes, you get quite a bit of ammunition. I went over the ammo counts earlier in the video, and unless you're a really poor shot, you shouldn't run out of ammo with the 50 cals. Now let's talk about the P51 weaknesses. It has a slow climb rate, it turns poorly, it's very unforgiving, it has no cannons, and the wings have a tendency to rip in the dive when you use the elevator key. The slow climb rate of the P51 is probably its biggest weakness, and it's one of the things that frustrates most P51 pilots. It's really easy to get frustrated by the slow climb rate of the P51. Even a fully upgraded P51 can only climb at about an 18-degree angle without losing too much speed. And when you combine that with the fact that the P51's engine overheats pretty quickly, you're going to have even more problems. So once you get it up to a certain point, I think it's like 3.5 minutes into the match, your engine's going to overheat if you've been weaping. At that point, you're going to have to lower the throttle to like 80% or 85% and let that cool down. Otherwise, your engine will burn out. Now, the P51 is not a very good turn fighter. It has some good turning ability characteristics at speed, but at low speed, the P51 is it's a pretty poor turner. A lot of rookie P51 pilots tend to make a mistake and start turn fighting, something they really ought not to be turn fighting. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a P51 try to turn fight a zero. That does not end well for the P51. When you combine the slow climb rate along with the poor turning ability, you end up with a plane that's rather unforgiving. If you happen to make a mistake and get yourself into a bad situation, there aren't a whole lot of options at your disposal. It's actually the P51's diving ability that'll likely be able to save you more times than any other maneuver that you can possibly pull with the P51. Now, the fourth weakness here I have listed is no cannons. As good as the M2 Brownings are, there are times where I feel like I wish I had a couple of cannons mounted on this P51. If you happen to fly this in arcade, you're going to have a lot of problems getting kills. And in realistic battles, it's not so bad because if people see the enemy plane is on fire, they'll usually respect the critical damage that you've done and back off. Whereas in arcade, it's pretty much every man for himself. Everyone's trying to get kills. And trying to get kills with 50 caliber machine guns in arcade is very difficult. Cannons, on the other hand, will blow apart a plane in just a couple of rounds. So it's on the list of weaknesses, but it's not high in the weakness department. The fifth issue with the P51 is the wings tend to rip in a dive at high speeds with the elevator key. Now, all that is important because normally in a dive, a P51 will not rip its wings until it gets incredibly fast. The dive speed of the P51 is very high. Now, the problem with wings ripping in a dive tends to happen when people manipulate the elevator with the elevator key. On my particular setup, I have W and S as the two keys that manipulate the elevator, either up and down. You may have it set to something different. But no matter what you do, when you go into a dive, you want to be very careful about using the elevator key. After you get about 650 kilometers an hour, you're going to want to leave the elevator key alone and instead use your mouse. Your mouse is a lot more gentle on adjusting the elevator than the elevator key is. The elevator key tends to be a little more forceful and a little more powerful on adjusting the elevator, whereas the mouse, I believe the mouse uses the instructor in the game and is a lot more gentle, and you'll be less likely to rip your wings. Next up, we have the P51 Advice section of the video. This is kind of a general summary as to how to fly the plane, and it kind of summarizes some of the advice that I've already given in this video. We start off with be patient and climb. The P51 is not a very good climber, so you want to be patient and then climb off to the side. I recommend flying with someone if at all possible. There's safety in numbers. Number 2, always keep your speed up. Remember, the P51 is an energy fighter. It needs speed. A slow P51 is a dead one, as I already mentioned. You want to be as fast as possible. This thing is a lot of fun to fly. Number 3, when in doubt, dive and separate. If you get into a problem, just dive away and try to create separation. When I say dive and separate, I don't mean separate yourself from your teammates. If possible, I would say try to dive towards your teammates and just try to separate yourself from whoever is on your tail. Number 4, only turn fight when confident. Now, if you're a rookie P51, I would say don't turn fight at all. But obviously, there are a few situations where even a rookie P51 pilot can win. Critically damaged fighters are easy to outturn, and so are most heavy bombers. You shouldn't have any problems outturning those. Number 5, stay close to your teammates. This is a team game. A P51 is only so good all on its own. Try to stay close to your teammates, help them out, they'll help you out. One of the oldest and most commonly asked questions is how do I get someone off my 6? If you can't outmaneuver the plane, drag them towards your teammates. Everyone likes an easy kill. And number 6, avoid head-ons. This is a good general rule of thumb in almost any plane. You can win head-ons in a P51, but my god, I see it happen so often where P51s go head-on and lose. So just avoid head-ons altogether. It just isn't worth risking your plane. Now we're going to transition into some actual gameplay. I know we're like 11 and a half minutes into this video, and we haven't gotten into any kind of gameplay yet, so we're going to transition to that next. We're going to start off with a game against the Japanese. Here we are, about 4 minutes into the match. We're on Saipan. Managed to climb up to just under 4,400 meters. The engine has begun to overheat a little bit, and you see the water's a little warm. So I've backed off the throttle. We're just climbing. Thankfully, I got a lot of P51s and Typhoons that have climbed with me. I've decided to climb right towards the middle of the map. Now, normally I wouldn't recommend this type of climbing method with the Mustang, but I decided to do this because I wanted to see if the Japanese actually climbed in the middle. Sometimes you'll be up against just zeros, which don't tend to climb. Sometimes you'll be up against Key 43s, Key 84s, and J2M3s, all of which do tend to climb. There's obviously no way to know what your competition is going to be made of with realistic battles. They don't really tell you what you're facing. Sometimes it would be nice to know what you're facing, I have to admit. However, if War Thunder told you you were up against X number of Key 84s and X number of Focke-Wulfs or whatever, it would really take away some of the realism. So I can certainly understand and appreciate why they do it the way that they do. We're just coming up to 5 kilometers. Above this is where the P51 tends to shine. But again, we don't climb very well. While the J2M3s, as you see here, are popping up. They climb far better than the P51. Frankly, I'm not really wanting to climb into that horde, so I made a turn off to the left. I don't want to get into that mess. You see the Typhoon here does the same thing. He knows just as well as I do that the first guys into the furball tend to be the first guys who are dead. I got some guys off to my right who have climbed a little bit steeper than I have. I think they happened to spawn in just a little bit earlier than I have. J2M3's diving on a P51. Definitely a concern. I want to get some altitude. You want to get as much altitude as you can. and convert that to speed. KD4 pops up over here in the clouds. Got a whole bunch of guys. Frankly, feeling a little outnumbered. But then a couple of P51s are still off to my left. KD4 pops up through the clouds. Now, in this position as a P51, if I can't shoot the guy down, I want to at least force him down. Whether that's just from being up here and at the same altitude, or by actually shooting some rounds at him. I am running tracer rounds, APIT. This guy takes a couple of hits. I just follow him through the loop, but I want to give my teammate all the opportunity that he can to finish him off. After all, he's the one that did the critical damage. After they go towards the deck, I decide to pitch up. I'm not going to give up all my altitude just for one guy. To me, it isn't worth giving up all my altitude to go after one fighter, especially when I have so many others up here. The Focke-Wulf is definitely one of the planes that I'm worried about. He could very easily get around on my tail. Got a P51 in front of me. He seems to be interested in the Focke-Wulf. Unfortunately, he goes missing through the clouds. The cloud cover on this particular map is pretty dense. Unfortunately, it really obscures the view. I've been able to get a lot of speed up in this dive that I was in. I decided to give up on the Focke-Wulf and just go up high. The K-84 has crashed. There's a J2M3 that's farming kills on our Hellcats. I completely lose stock of my speed in a stall out, just as the K-84 is barreling down. Not a good situation to be in. Like I mentioned earlier, this thing is not very forgiving if you happen to stall out like this. I could have been shot very easily by the K-84, but instead he's got his sights set on the other P51. The K-84 actually turned off the P51. Now I wonder if he was going a little too fast, or faster than he was expecting. Oh, nice job setting him on fire. Good shot. Just use that speed that I built up in the dive to gain some altitude. You always want to be watching your speed and altitude. If you're not diving on someone, I recommend climbing, using whatever speed you have to climb. When you have to dive, when you need speed, go into a shallow dive to get whatever speed you need. This thing has very good energy retention. Now, it wasn't all that long ago that most of the enemy fighters were like 5 kilometers. Now, it seems like a bunch of them have decided to go for the deck. And that's fine with me. I'd rather fight at this altitude anyway, even though it's not necessarily at the P51 strengths. I actually prefer this kind of altitude because we're out of the clouds now. The clouds are incredibly effective at masking the location of fighters. So at this altitude, I'm fucking loving this, man. This is great for booming and zooming. KD4 passes in front of me. I open up, get a couple of shots. There we go, fireball. Well, that's the power of the APITs. Armor piercing incendiary tracer. Instant fireball. His fuel tank blew up, and he was done. I've got a couple of guys below me. Focke-Wulf, I'm really wanting to kill him. He's got 4 20mm cannons. If I can take him out of the fight, that'd be great. He sees me diving. He turns inside of me. I have to pull off. Continuing in that dive would have been suicide. I would have likely missed him and probably crashed into the ground. So instead, I take that speed, put it into altitude, and pitch up. The J2M3 tries to get a shot on me, but he's just not able to connect. My oil and water are getting a little warm, so that is a concern of mine. But the temperatures aren't in the red yet. Still got a lot of fighters here down low. J2M3 and A6M. And which one do you go for? I go for the A6M because he would ordinarily be a lot more difficult to boom and zoom on because of his maneuverability. The J2M3 is basically a Japanese version of the P51 in a sense. It's basically an energy fighter, just like this is, whereas the A6M3 is a turn fighter and is far more difficult to hit. So he fireballs and dies. That's always good to see. So J2M3 and the Focke-Wulf is still alive. I do have a P51 over here. He and I are going to try to work on this guy a little bit. This guy's pitching up. He wants to go into a head-on. I don't want to go into a head-on with a J2M3. I might be able to kill him in the head-on, but I would probably end up getting some critical damage. Stalling him out ends up being a perfect setup for my teammate. P51 fireballs him, and he ends up dying here pretty shortly. That's a really good teamwork there. With my oil and water really getting warm, I decided to cool off my engine. There's an A6M5 up high. Sea Flyer obviously needs some help. He's in the P51. He knows the best way to get a guy off his tail is to drag him towards a teammate. However, he overestimates my energy at this point. Little does he know, I don't have a whole lot of energy. I'm really climbing at a pretty slow speed. I just don't have enough energy to pitch up and kill this guy. What Sea Flyer should have done is given up some of his altitude in hopes that the A6M5 would have followed him down. Instead, I just don't have enough energy to pitch up to this guy and get him. All I can do is kind of dive away and get some more speed. I really can't offer a whole lot of support in this particular situation. I thought awfully hard about chasing him. Instead, I'm thinking someone's over here by the P51. There's still quite a few guys left. I'm thinking that maybe someone's low over here. Maybe there's a... Okay, there's that Fractal. He's still over here. But quite frankly, I thought there would be like a bomber or something over here. Because there is somebody who has 10 ground kills on the enemy team. So I figured maybe there was a B-17 or something. With no one else showing up on radar over there, I decided to turn around and help out my teammate with this guy. It looks like the Fractal finally crashed on the landing. He probably didn't have much of a landing gear left. 4 P51s versus 1 A6M5. A good A6M5 pilot will be able to dive or outturn some of them, but eventually numbers will simply catch up. And this guy is making a mistake, and he's actually going vertical. This is not smart. Don't do this. Light him on fire. Unfortunately, I only get the kill assist, even though I thought he did the most damage, but maybe the guy knocked out his pilot or something. Nothing I can do about that. Oil's overheating, so I cool down the engine. Still a couple of guys left. And at this point in the match, I have no idea where they are. No one's showing up on radar. There are no kills being reported in the kill feed on the bottom right-hand corner. So all we can do is basically separate ourselves. And here we go. Cloud Lee spotted a Key 84. Of course, where is he? See, there's Cloud Lee over there, but I don't see the Key 84. Open up the map, see where he is. He's all the way over there in the clouds, which is why I don't see him. But don't worry, we're going to fast forward this and get to some of the action. Here we go. Finally spotted the Key 84 in the clouds. Cloud Lee and his squad mate have both converged on this guy. I'm just trying to get up here and offer some support. I honestly have no expectations to actually kill this guy, but as I type in here in the team chat, I encourage them to force him down if they can. Maybe I can get him. The Key 84 is an energy fighter, much like the P51, but it is a little bit more maneuverable. So ideally, I would like to see this Key 84 dive down, either chasing one of the P51s or running away from both of them. Because if the Key 84 gives up all of his altitude, he'll be dead. Because once you lose all your altitude, you don't have any. You really don't have any advantage. It would be 3 P51s on this one Key 84, and Key 84 would die. Cloud Lee, he's spraying all kinds of rounds. Key 84 dives or climbs right up in front of me. I put a burst into him, light him on fire, and the two Key 84s collide with one another. Oh my god. Oh, that feels so stupid. And you know damn well that they were on voice comms the whole time. You just know it. So that's the third kill of the match. Should have gotten a fourth kill on that A6M, but what are you going to do? There's still one guy left. No idea where he is. He's not showing up on radar, and there are no kills being mentioned in the bottom right-hand corner, so all I can do is fly around. And of course, the last guy alive has the most team points. Earlier I mentioned that he had 10 ground kills. Actually, those are AI kills. I misinterpreted the chart there. He's the one that's been farming the Hellcats, the F6Fs. I'm thinking he's off to my left, but I messaged my teammate seeing if he's got any eyes of him over there. No, nothing over to the right. I thought he might be in the clouds by now, just like that K-84 was for quite a while before the two P-51s converged. The other possible location is over here to my right now, over by there, that P-51 where Sea Flyer is. But I'm still not convinced. Sea Flyer isn't calling him out yet, so I'm not really. There we go. Sea Flyer has him off to the right. Not really sure why he waited this long to call him out, but I gave up all my altitude to get some speed. There he is. He's up high, kind of 1,500 meters. And the G2M3, he's an energy fighter, just like the P51 is. However, he is outnumbered at this point. I've got Sea Flyer below me. I've got another teammate off to the other island. So if I need help, he's not going to be too far behind me. I know what you're all saying. You're going to go into a head-on, aren't you? Yeah, but only a quick one. Just one quick burst. Then I go evasive. Try to evade all those shots. Make him waste all of his ammo. And immediately turn this thing into a turn. This does have fairly good turning capabilities at speed. And we're still actually going 400 kilometers an hour, so we're actually going fairly fast. The J2M3 is much like the P51 in that it's more of an energy fighter than a turn fighter. And I suspect that this guy is not fully upgraded yet. Could be wrong. P51 goes on a head-on, he dies. And that's why you don't go into a head-on with the P51. Just don't. It just isn't worth the risk. I only went on to a head-on for just enough for one quick burst, and then I got out of there. Now, if there is any good news that came out of that head-on pass, the P51 did do some critical damage to the J2M3, and he is having problems. You can see he's smoking, he's burning oil. There we go. Fireball. Left flap damage. Looks like he's going down. Unfortunately, the fire goes out, so I dive down on him, put a couple more shots into him, just to finish him off as he crashes into the deck to secure the 4th kill of the match. There we go. So 4 kills. Not a bad little game here, guys. Here's the score screen for you guys. I know some of you are interested in seeing how many research points and everything that I got. With 4 kills in a premium account, I got 105,000 silver lions and just under 9,000 in vehicle research points that I'm putting towards the F2H. This is actually a fairly old recording, but I thought it was a good enough match to hold on to while I was working on the P51 video. I thought it turned out well. To me, this gameplay helped showcase some of the energy retention and dive capabilities and what a good team can actually do together. I had a difficult time getting some footage for the P51. There are a lot of bad US teams out there. Now, in this second gameplay, we're up against the Germans on Sicily. Now, on this map, I tend to side climb to the right. We're up to 5,000 meters. We've made first contact with the BF-119s on the German side. There's an F7F just above me. It looks like he wants to take a shot at the 109. He dives on him. The F7F has an amazing climb rate ability. So he's able to actually force the 109 down just a little bit because of some of his altitude, which is great to see a 109 below the P51 because it almost never happens. That definitely helps me out. And quite frankly, I'm not really in that big of a hurry to get engaged with these guys, because even though they've given up some of their altitude after that dive from that F7F, I know that in that dive they gained some speed, so they can very quickly gain or regain their altitude. The 109s are incredibly good aircraft. They have very good energy retention, much like the P51. Some of the 109s can actually nearly catch the P51 in a dive, so you want to be careful when facing the 109s. I would recommend diving earlier than you may anticipate being necessary. The premium 109 G2 can actually outdive the G2 Trop by just a couple of kilometers an hour. And sometimes that little bit of distance can be all the difference between life and death for you in the P51. It's not so much a matter of you being able to outdive them, it's whether or not they can get close enough to actually shoot you. They don't have to catch you, they just have to be able to get close enough to put some rounds down the range. That Focke-Wulf is looking awfully juicy, but these 109s are higher, so they're definitely the priority target for me. I want to, if I can, either shoot them or force them down, just like I talked about in the previous match against Japan. If I can't shoot them, I'd like to at least force them down, force them to give up their altitude. This 109 sees me, first one to make any kind of serious shot at me. He comes at me, I roll underneath him. I continue on, got all kinds of speed thanks to that little bit of a dive. And I just zoom right towards this Focke-Wulf, who is, for some strange reason, decided to stall himself out. You can see the contrails and a pilot snipe. It's a Focke-Wulf 190A5. It's one of the best boom and zoomers in the game. The fact that he's down is definitely a help for the American team. Now I'm looking around trying to find the 109s, and they've all disappeared. Where the fuck did they go? I'm looking around, all I see is the F7F over here, who was booming and zooming earlier. I don't see any of the enemy team other than way down at treetop level. All I see are my teammates. No enemies. Where did they go? There aren't really any clouds on this map to speak of. You know, just a couple of wispy little formations, but nothing like that last map against the Japanese, where there was some pretty thick clouds. F7F was all by himself. Still nothing, or still nobody from the enemy team over there. So where do they go? Everyone seems to have given up their altitude and is turn fighting one another ground at the treetop level. Don't understand why. I don't know what happened here. Why the 109s have given up all their altitude, but that's fine with me. I'm more than willing to dive on these guys. Now you want to be very careful when diving with the P51. I mentioned earlier not to use your elevator key when you're diving. Use your mouse, as I showed there. I didn't use my elevator key, and I didn't snap my wings. There, I did use my elevator key just a little bit, and it's a little risky, quite frankly. Hell, it's a lot risky. I'll be honest with you. It's very risky to use the elevator key at high speeds. I was going a little faster than I should have been. The G2 Trop comes in for a pass. Turn underneath him. I've got a lot of speed, so I immediately turn around, try to go after him. After all, the P51 is a pretty good turner at speed. 109 tries to do the same, sees that I've outturned him, I fireball him, but he's not dead yet. See another 109 down here. Very cautiously decelerate, cut my engine, throttle up, try to take a couple of shots into this G2. Got a couple of hits. He's still alive. I overshoot. The other 109 goes down. Now, I don't want to get into a turn fight with this guy. If I give up all my speed, I'm going to end up getting shot down. The enemy team has too many planes in the area. Another 109 comes in. I fireball him. See, the radar's got all kinds of red guys. I don't want to be in here at slow speeds. You want to be fast in the P51. Speed is life in this thing. So you want to be fast. Take a couple of shots at this ME410. Finally fireball him. He can't get out of that dive. He crashes. For my third kill of the match. Well, I'm in a little bit of a situation where I got two enemies behind me. But I've also got two Tiger Cats behind me. One's high, one's a medium altitude. One guy tries to help me out, but he face plants himself into the ground. Thanks, teammate. I appreciate that. That's alright. I'm not in really any actual danger. Neither one of these 109s that are behind me are in a really in any kind of position to shoot me. Both are frankly slow. The Tiger Cat finishes off one of them, and the other crashes. So that was pretty much the end of that. I really wasn't in a whole lot of danger of being shot down because of the speed that the P51 had from that dive. Even though I was doing a lot of turning, and that did bleed a lot of speed, it didn't bleed all of it. I actually had a lot of speed because of the energy retention that the P51 has. Now this guy actually notices me. He's apparently I don't know if he's a subscriber or if he's just a viewer. But he and I actually flew out a couple of matches after this match. It's pretty cool being recognized on in the game sometimes. Now there's one more guy off here. Actually, there's two. One, he's dead, but he's just kind of hanging out. But there's one more over towards the base that the Tiger Cat finishes off. And that's pretty much the end of this match. Now, as usual, I'll fast forward to the scores. We see 3 kills with a premium account. I ended up with just over 85,000 in silver lions and just under 8,000 in vehicle research points. With that last bit of RP, I was able to finish off the research of the Banshee. Anyway, guys, I hope you all enjoyed this video. More than anything, I hope you found it informative, because this really was meant to be helpful to those of you who are new to the game. If you can become a competent P-51 pilot, you can fly just about any fighter in the game. It's a really good plane to learn how to fly. Anyway, guys, I hope you all enjoyed this. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you have any comments, questions, or other advice you think other pilots would like to have, by all means, leave them in the comments section. And of course, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Take care, guys.